I wish I could tell you, hey, bet on this driver and that driver's going to win 5 or 6 races. I can't do that, but I can say, hey, there's a bucket of drivers. And if you bet on anybody in that bucket, you have a really good shot of winning 2 races.
What's going on, everyone? It's been a minute. Bear Bets Podcast is back. I'm Bear Chris Fallica. Football season is over, but certainly doesn't mean Bear Bets Podcast is over. We're getting into the off-season programming portion of the pod, and as always, my esteemed co-host Geoff Schwartz is here, and we are also proud to be and honored to be joined today by Bob Pockrass, who is the Fox Motorsports insider with the INDYCAR season getting underway this weekend. And as we were just joking off camera, we got one guy here talking INDYCAR and we got one guy in Indianapolis for the combine. But it's kind of exciting here with INDYCAR coming over to Fox Sports. And you've got some stuff up there, Bob. Your kind of 25 questions to the season up on foxsports.com. And we saw recently, like in the last couple of years, like this big craze with F1 gaining a ton of popularity in the U.S. Of course, NASCAR is still there. Like look, we'll bet on anything. We were betting on ping pong and Madden games during COVID. So as kind of the treetop, someone who really isn't as familiar with the sport, I guess first of all, just like, what would you say is like the biggest differences in terms of maybe the cars, the strategy, ways to bet it, what we can expect from like F1 compared to INDYCAR compared to NASCAR?
Well, I was just talking to Otto Ward, an INDYCAR driver who had tested an F1 car in December, and he said the INDYCAR is much more of a beast. Doesn't handle, I don't think, as well as the F1 cars. You see those cars, and they stop on a dime, and I think the INDYCARs need a quarter. And you're probably trying to figure out, right, how to spend your dimes and quarters. And, I think INDYCAR, there's a little bit more passing. It's not always decided in the first few laps like you might think in an F1 race. INDYCAR has a couple different ways where they can actually boost their acceleration either through their hybrid system or what's called a push to pass. So drivers actually maybe have a little bit more tools if they get right behind somebody to be able to make the pass that makes the difference. And other changes or other differences between the two, while Formula One is all, street and road courses, Indianapolis or the IndyCar series does go to a handful of ovals. Obviously, the one that everybody knows is Indianapolis. So the cars are a little bit different when they go to the ovals and they are on the street courses, but obviously the ovals are a totally different dynamic, and you have drivers who are good on ovals and not so good on road courses, and vice versa. You have your champion Alex Palou still looking for some oval wins.
All right, we are both novices. I don't know how many people listening are big into IndyCar betting, racing, right? Watch every week, but we want to get into it this weekend. What's the best way to start wagering on this sport?
I would say pick your. There's so many different drivers who could win. Last year no driver had more than 3 wins, and I want to say 7 drivers had at least 2 wins. So I'm not saying put up a dartboard and throw a dart at the starting lineup, but you choose somebody, either a personality that you like or a car color that you like, and see if they've won a couple of races. And I would say potentially bet on them. And is that going to be a risk? Yes, but in the sense that that there's a lot of parity, and so I wouldn't say while you may in an F1 say, okay, well I'm going to bet on Max Verstappen. Indy isn't like that right now. You have Alex Palou, you have Pato O'Ward, you have Joseph Newgarden, Scott McLaughlin, Colton Herta, all drivers who've won at least a pair of races last year who you think are going to win this year. So I wish I could tell you, hey, bet on this driver and that driver's going to win 5 or 6 races. I can't do that, but I can say, hey, there's a bucket of drivers, and if you bet on anybody in that bucket, you have a really good shot of winning 2 races.
It sounds like it's almost like, from a betting standpoint, a little bit of a hybrid between like the PGA Tour and Live and like F1 as well. Where like I know people that do bet F1 and they're betting exactas with Verstappen and like someone else, like each week a couple of different exactas, because Verstappen's been in the exacta like top 2 finish so many times. And then you got a PGA Tour board where, yeah, maybe Scotty Scheffler is going to win 5 or 6 times, but you look at the recent run of winners in golf. Like I know people that will bet like maybe 3 or 4 different outrights, and you'll take a favorite, you'll take a mid shot or 2, and then you'll take a long shot. So like, would you co-sign maybe betting like 3 or 4 different guys outright in a race, or maybe putting a couple of those guys in like an exacta, some of the more popular guys?
Yeah, I would. When they get to the ovals, I would say maybe check and see if your driver is adept at ovals as well as road courses, because there are some that are not. But beyond that, yeah, I would say you're going to be better off with a handful than relying on one.
So before we really get into, well, go ahead, Geoff. I'm sorry.
Completely, Barry. How much is live wagering a part of watching the race? Bear mentioned like golf. Like I'll live wager golf all the time, depending on the leaderboard. Can you do that in IndyCar?
I don't see a lot of that in IndyCar or NASCAR or a lot of motorsports, quite frankly. And you would think they could, because you could always say, "Oh, who's going to have the fastest pit stop?" Right? And all these leagues have that data that they could potentially, even find somebody to do a deal with to provide to who they provide that data to. So. But we have not seen a lot of live wagering, and you would think you would see it potentially more in NASCAR, where NASCAR has stage racing. So they have a state that they have like a first third of the race where they hand out points, and then a second third of a race, and a final third of the race. IndyCar and Formula One don't have that, but even with that, you don't see a whole lot of in race betting in NASCAR even as well.
We love, as Geoff said, we love the live wagering, because I think that does give an opportunity for if these pit crews and which pits are more efficient and get their cars out there, you probably could find a little bit of it. Maybe that's why there isn't a market for it right now, because it's something that the odds makers and cannot really account for. But something we can account for is our coverage this year. Tell us about some of the cool things that you guys have in store for us watching the sport this year.
Well, we're just thrilled to have IndyCar on Fox. We've launched all our social channels in the last month or 2 on TikTok and YouTube and X and Instagram. And we're just, you're going to see a lot of video content working with drivers and our Fox talent that we have. And then on foxsports.com, you'll get your power rankings. We already have some preseason power rankings up. I've put Nolan Siegel, a young guy, as in my top 10 in power rankings, and people think I'm nuts, but I think you talk about potential young driver who could surprise some people, and with a good team, and I think he could be one of them. We'll talk. Every week, I'll give my thoughts after each race, and we'll also have plenty of features and just kind of telling you about the series, especially in these early races. We're going to try to tell you who you should root for. Like, do you want to root for the veteran? Do you want to root for maybe the antagonist of Santino Ferrucci, the guy who seems to be in all the drama? Or do
that
you
sounds
want
like my kind of guy right there.
Yeah. Or do you want the steely cold guy competitor like Joseph Newgarden? And there's all sorts of choices that you can have in IndyCar.
Well, one fun storyline is what Kyle Larson's trying to do this season. Once again, Indy 500, and then also flying to Charlotte for the Coke 600. How will he pull this off this year?
Well, he hopes he pulls it off with good weather, because last year he tried to do it and rain delayed the start of the Indy 500. He completed the Indy 500, got to Charlotte, was hoping to get in his car after Justin Allgaier had started it, and the same storm system that had delayed the Indy 500 reached Charlotte and ended that race early, and he never got in. So he's hoping for some better weather, but he told me and told Fox Sports in the last few weeks that his training and everything, he felt really good to be able to do 600 miles after doing the 500 miles at Indianapolis. And he, the only, you count one hand the number of people who have done it. And considering he's one of what most people say is one of the greatest talents in racing, he steps in that Indy car and he has no fear to go 230, 240 miles per hour around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a car that he doesn't really know. Now, Kyle Larson is a guy, if you asked him to probably change the oil on your car, he's not going to be able to do it. But he knows how to go fast. He knows how to handle a car that might feel a little sketchy. And he showed that at Indianapolis last year. He had a pit road speeding penalty, so he finished 18th, but he was running in the top 10. And so for this second edition, he just feels so much more better prepared, so much more at ease with just being able to get in that Indy car and being able to make it go fast, quick.
So Alex Palou looking to win his third straight IndyCar title, but are there any other potential? He's obviously the favorite to win the title again, but we don't like betting favorites here. We like looking. We'll bet a favorite if a favorite is really is strong. Don't get me wrong there, but is there anyone else out there that might be a little bit of a dark horse contender to keep Alex from winning that third straight?
Well, I talked to one this morning. His name was Marcus Erickson, and he finished 7th in the standings. And I asked him, I said, can I call you my dark horse for the championship? And he said, well, I just kind of pay attention to myself and do my thing. You can do what you want. But that's the type of driver he is. He said he finished 7th in the standings last year, his first at Andretti since moving over from Ganassi. And a lot of people look at him as a potential driver who could win multiple races and potentially pull off the surprise.
I'm gonna have to place a little what Geoff and I like doing, like especially during the football season,
plus 1,700. Come on.
I was gonna say we sit there in the studio during football season. We open up our app and we start firing in bets on the set. So I don't have my phone handy right now, but I am going to take notes and I'm going to make my first IndyCar title
right here. I got my phone handy right here. I'm gonna do it here. I'll ask Bob one more. I'll make this wager while Bob talks. All right, Bob. For this weekend, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, give us your win, play, show for the race on Sunday.
Well, my winner is going to be the winner from last year, Pato Award. But last year, he didn't lead a lap. Joseph Newgarden actually led most of the race, but ended up being disqualified for a technical violation weeks later. So I think that Pato is going to he has 3 podiums with top 3 finishes here at St. Pete. He does have a win in his career, obviously last year. And I think he'll actually get it done on the track instead of finishing second and then getting the trophy like 6 weeks later. My place Scott McLaughlin. This is the place where he got his first win about 4 or 5 years ago. This is a good track for him. He is kind of feeling, I want to say, maybe a little bit of the pressure that he has to maybe more contend for the title than he has in past years. I'm looking him to follow Pato Award across the finish line. And then third, I'm going to go with Joseph Newgarden. I think, obviously he wants to prove that his strength last year was not because of any technical violation, that he's typically been strong here. He's won twice here. So I would think he'll be up near the front. I just don't think he's going to be able to muscle past Pato or Scott.
Okay, so we're now we're gonna have to make 2 bets. Now we're gonna have to bet Pato to win this week as well. It was I saw the ad with Joseph Newgarden last night. I love stop drinking milk at age whatever it was, and he began at age 30. That was very, very well done and very cleverly written and executed. So tell us where all of our listeners and viewers here can find you during the season on social and wherever else.
Yeah, on both X and Instagram. You can follow me at Bob Pockrass, and then we have our IndyCar on Fox accounts on both those platforms as well. And then on YouTube, we also have an IndyCar on Fox page, as well as Facebook and TikTok.
Bob, appreciate you, and you've You've
Thank
got a
you,
couple
Bob.
converts right here now. We're going to be paying a little bit more attention on a week in, week out basis. We're always looking to find an edge, and anything you can do for us to and our listeners and viewers to do that, we are all for. Maybe again we can do it at some point during the year. Bob, appreciate you.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Bob.
thank you guys.
All right, Bear, that was good IndyCar preview for the year. We have those wagers locked in. We're going to get back now to what we do best, which is some college basketball and some futures in baseball and basketball.
Is it what we do best?
I think that's what we do. We do it well. Maybe not best, but we cover basketball pretty well, Bear. And we'll do that next week with the Gamma Group Chat coming back. Obviously, we start conference championship week for the mid-majors. Then we'll go to the big dogs, and we have the tournament here fairly soon. And we have two best bets, Bear. They're in college basketball. What is your best bet?
Well, if you want to call a 50-1 shot a best bet, I don't know about that.
It's a bet.
It is a bet, and it's VCU to make the Final Four at 50-1. It's the team certainly that doesn't have the highest strength of schedule, and they don't have a ton of quality wins. But trust me, this is a team that you do not want to play. They defend. They're experienced. They remind me a little bit of the team that wound up making the Final Four however many years ago. That was where they are a couple of young 6'10" guys I got who are playing a lot more these days. So VCU out of the A10 is a team that you are not going to multiple scorers, very athletic. You do not want to see VCU Rams pop up on your line. They're probably maybe looking at being around a 10 or an 11 seed potentially in the tournament, but they're a team that I have my eye on, and they could make life very, very miserable if you happen to be like the 6 or the 3 seed in your region. So little pizza money, little lunch money on VCU at 51. By the way, how fun was that? Like one thing I always say about betting is it's you never really stop learning. Like when you make a good bet or a bad bet, you want to learn from what I did right, what I did wrong, and you want to learn about different sports and different things. So it was fun. It was good to talk to Bob about some things, and they're going to make a little wager on some IndyCar.
When you wager on it, you watch it. So that means we watch some IndyCar. I tried to parlay the win play show, wouldn't let me do it. So I thought that would be fun to do those all three together. I tried to make it happen, but one thing I will make happen is my best bet, which is more of a best bet. It's a lower number here. Indiana to miss the playoffs, Bear plus 205. I'm surprised.
Right? Tournament?
Yeah, sorry, to miss the tournament. Yes, plus 205. They're a firm bubble team. They're an 11 seed right now, and probably the bottom of the 11 seeds, which is sort of about where the at-larges stop at. They're 4-11 in quad one wins, and they got 3 games left. They're at Washington. They play Oregon. They play Ohio State. If they beat all 3, they might be in. If they lose one, Bear, they're probably out. I'm just surprised at this number. It's a 50-50 for them to get in. I get plus 2-1. I'll take this number. So no Indiana here, plus 205 to make the tournament.
I like that. I watched the end of that Indiana-Penn State game last night, and they're certainly a team.
Bravo!
I mean, they got away with the win there, but they're certainly not a team that's trustworthy to win a game. And something that we were talking about, like if they're an 11 seed right now, that does not leave very. You figure they'll probably Washington they should beat, Oregon they'll probably lose there, and then Ohio State toss a coin. Who the hell knows? But
that's probably that Ohio State could be a play-in, by the way. And look, Ohio State is like 35 in net, 36. Indiana's 56. Yes. Like they're at the very bottom of the line, and there could be some Big Ten bias, absolutely. But what if there's one upset? What if
there always is an upset with one of those other
championship game? In the championship game, VCU's in on their own, and then they're the team they lost who's in too. Indiana's out, so I'll get 2-1. I'll take it.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm starting to segue and think a little bit more about March Madness and some tournament bets, and I would love to see somebody post like the over/under on number of SEC teams to make the Final Four. I think that would be very curious if they would make it 1.5 or make it 2. You can't really make it 2, or else you're not going to get any. You probably have to make it 1.5 and figure out the juice. But I'd be curious to potentially bet an under on under 1.5 SEC teams in the Final Four. It's but we'll see. We'll see. And then I'm sure there'll probably be some Auburn and Duke versus the field talk. Yeah, I'm getting fired up for March Madness once the tournament comes around. Getting fired up for the draft. Where you're at the combine in Indianapolis right now. So draft intel's trickling in, but we're not going to give away any of it yet because we got to bet it first. We got to wait for these markets to post. So I need your help there and keeping your eyes open and let me know if any of this stuff pops.
The Stafford trade or no trade will matter a lot to what happens in the top 5. So we're 6 essentially. So that's something to watch the next couple weeks. If Stafford gets traded, that obviously changes what the Giants or Raiders or maybe someone else does at the top. I think we can't set a board till that happens. And plus, as the combine happens, Bear, Abdul Carter, foot injury, right? That changes a lot. So like these things we find out. We'll have next week when we're back with the guys. We'll have gambling. We'll have props. Most likely on the draft we can start getting into.
Yeah, we certainly will, and we look forward to having Will and Sammy back next week. The gang will be back together next week, I think. Right? I think next week sounds like a good opportunity to do that. But we appreciate Bob for pinch hitting this week for our guy. That was a good chat. Remember to tune in. Fox coverage of INDYCAR this weekend, Sunday. Season gets underway in St. Pete and all the races throughout the year. So appreciate all of you tuning in again on Apple, Spotify, YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcast. Rate, review, subscribe. It was a fun football season. We're going to have a fun non-football season as well, even though it's always kind of football season, right?
Yes,
most popular sport in the country. So thanks, Bob. Thanks, Geoff. Thanks to you. Take away one thing, as always, it is that the less you bet, the more you lose when you win.